there was something always lurking. I always like to joke, maybe it was from the shtetl roots of my ancestors in Eastern Europe. For sure they were breaking bread, challah. Somehow it came out in pizza, and all the iterations I've been in the pizza industry, it feels like it's just tied together everything that I've done in my life to date.
What's happening? What's good, dough? It's your boy, Idriff. How are you doing today? I'm doing great, in case you're wondering. And if you're new to the show, welcome. This podcast is all about leveling up your pizza game. And today, we are leveling up our pizza game through Rafi from Hilltown Hot Pies. Oh yeah, Rafi is a nomadic person. And it's no wonder that he is taking his pop-up, Hilltown Hot Pies, on the road via mobile pizza truck. We actually spend a majority of the time talking about how his upbringing of political organizing, having a family business in the food industry, how traveling, how sustainable farming is all tied together through this delicious thread called pizza. We also talk about mentorship and how it's played such a huge role in his life. And we talk about all the things that he's learned through that. And last but not least, if you're thinking about opening up a brick and mortar, you definitely need to hear Rafi's lesson on negotiating a lease and why he ultimately did not sign a lease with this landlord. I want to take a moment to just talk to y'all for a minute, because today we release the first episode that we recorded in the studio that I'm recording in right now. I'm so happy because after 70 episodes, I think I have finally found a home to record my podcast in. I think we're going to have less echo. We will have more consistent audio. Give me some time to just get through the kinks, obviously, but I have a really great feeling about this, and I want to thank you all so much. Give yourselves a pat on the back because we have gone through this journey together. We are getting some amazing guests. We are getting some amazing information from them, and it's just going to continue from here. And I am so thankful for y'all. And I want to thank you in advance for sharing the episode, for helping kind of push this journey along, because the more we grow, the better the content will be. And that is going to be a guarantee, yo. Thank you so much again. And I want to thank Ooni as well for sponsoring the show. And I want to send you all a major congratulations for busting out that new oven, the Ooni Karu 16. I was just messaging my friend Mike from Rose Hill Sourdough, and I asked him if I should buy a door for the Ooni Kota 16. And I knew that there wasn't a reason that Ooni didn't sell a door, and I found out that if you put a door on the Ooni Kota 16, it'll produce carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide, and that doesn't sound like a good thing. And then literally the following day, the Ooni Karu 16 comes out. It has a door, it has a gas burner, a wood burner, and a chimney, and that is gangster. Having a door, the reason going back, is a game changer because it'll give you an even preheat, a faster preheat, and more consistent temperatures. And that's something I have my eyes on. If you have your eyes on it too, you can use the special link in the show note. It is my affiliate link, and I want to thank you in advance for using it. Go get that amazing pizza oven and level up your pizza game. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And remember to always ask, what's good, dough? Rafi, thank you so much for joining me today. What's up? How are you?
I am good. It is a delight to be on What's Good, Dough after listening to it for so long and admiring what you're doing.
Come on. I am so lucky you're here because your Instagram is popping. From what I've gathered so far, your journey is popping. I'm really excited to learn more about you. But first question, what's good, dough?
The long-awaited question. I've been waiting for this for many months. What is good dough? I think good dough is, in the most literal sense, is dough that connects us, that binds us together as community, that brings joy to people, brings love to people. And I don't care if it's naturally leavened sourdough or frankly, Domino's pie. I mean, despite being a sourdough and good grain fanatic, I do love making good pizza with that. I just think that good dough, whether it's a random slice shop that just picks you up on a down day, or a super artsy, hippy dippy, crunchy whole grain sourdough pizza on a farm, good dough brings us together. It unites us and it spreads joy, and that's why I love pizza.
I love the community aspect of things, something that you mentioned there that I want to get into. You're about community, and prior to doing pizza, you were a political organizer, right?
That is right. Yeah, it's been a funny journey indeed that has led me to pizza and to Hilltown Hot Pies, my pizza brand now. I mean, food and pizza and bread has certainly been a thread in that for many, many, many years. I mean, certainly I grew up in a food family, which I could talk about a little more, but in a family in the food business. But before professionally going into pizza, I was running political campaigns all over the place up in Alaska. Right after college, I moved to Alaska and ran state legislative races all over that state, and was involved in politics when I was at school in New Haven, Connecticut. And I think that, when you think about pizza, as I just said, it is a communal food. It is a food that literally must be eaten together. I mean, you could house a pie on your own, but traditionally it's eaten together. And so the transition into pizza making from political organizing and other stuff I've done, like, guiding people on adventure travel trips all over the world. I just love connecting people to landscape, connecting people to each other, building bridges between people, building bridges between people and the environment around them. And pizza is just this incredible canvas for that. So I like to say politics through pizza. I think pizza can be very political. Pizza can be very communal, and it somehow has all flowed together since I graduated college.
For sure. I mean, I work for a social political organization, and after every meeting, we just happen to have pizza. And it's like one of the best parts about working there, other than making a huge difference in this world. Pizza is
100%.
It's so available.
I mean, if I think about some of my early political days when I was volunteering for then Senator Obama's campaign in early 2007 in New Jersey, when I was working on his, just as a middle school volunteer going to high school, obviously there's always pizza around the campaign office. I have worked in many kind of dingy campaign offices in random strip malls all over the country, and some nicer offices like the Obama headquarters in 2012 in Chicago when I was working on that campaign. And no matter what, there's always pizza around. And so definitely, I don't really have a simple answer to where pizza came from for me. I'm a nice Jewish boy from the suburbs of New Jersey. I'm definitely not from an Italian family, but pizza has always been present in my life, and all these professional things I've done, and personally in our family life, obviously pizza is a big part of it. So it somehow all has led me onto this professional pizza journey.
Of course. And before we, extrapolate that professional pizza journey of yours, I guess I just want to ask you, did you ever share pizza with any of the presidents of the United States? Share a pizza meal, excuse me.
Yeah. I unfortunately did not share a pizza meal. I can't say I've ever shared a meal with, a one sit down meal with those presidents, but, I definitely, I know that I'll say this. I know that, both presidents are known to like pizza. I put on my Instagram a great picture of President Biden carrying a pie, in a cardboard box. I obviously did not take that picture. But they strike me both as good pizza lovers and, supporters of good small scale agriculture and and improving our farm system and food system. So I feel like they could be behind Hilltown Hot Pies. I don't want to make an official endorsement, but I think they would be behind my pizza brand.
Very cool. Well, thank you for indulging me in that.
For sure.
Tell me, how did you make the transition from political organizing into pizza?
Totally. So as I've said, there's been kind of a food thread throughout much of my life. I mean, going as far back as elementary school or whatever, those early years, I was planting a garden in my parents' backyard and always loved growing vegetables and growing food. And as I mentioned earlier, came from a food family, as in I would say I'm the fourth generation actually in my family in the food business of some sorts. My great grandfather started a supermarket chain and kind of grew that around New Jersey and New York, very kind of traditional Jewish Ashkenazi immigrant story. Came came to this country from Eastern Europe and started peddling vegetables on the streets and grew it into business. My grandfather ran that business. My dad and mom together started a kind of essentially a wholesale produce and some meats and cheeses, but mostly produce distribution company. So and ran that for most of my life. So many of my early memories are certainly discussing food around the table, discussing the new tomato they were bringing in from California, or this specialty fruit from the Middle East, or a new apple from Chile, or whatever it may be. And then, visiting some of the bigger farming operations around the country, Driscoll, Del Monte. I remember we'd go and visit these big suppliers. And what's interesting for me is in high school, I kind of had this shift of certainly grew up around this bigger, this more traditional, I would say, agricultural system. My parents certainly brought a company distribute a lot of organics, especially produce. But when in high school, I should say, I went to this amazing school in Vermont for essentially a year called the Mountain School. It's a organic kind of farm/school in Vershire, Vermont. That is this unbelievable program that essentially you go to school, you learn agriculture, you go out in the woods and learn how to maple sugar, and the whole curriculum is based around learning the landscape of rural New England and growing food. And that was this light bulb went off in me where I was like, oh my God, in some respect, I want my life to be producing food, whether that's farming, whether that's cooking food, being a craftsperson in food. And since then, there's always been something. So I started a small vegetable farm before I went to college. And then in college, helped manage our kind of campus farm at Yale, where I went to school, with the Yale Sustainable Food Program. I cooked on the line in some restaurants while I was in New Haven at school. I can definitely talk about this more later. I became very good friends with a local pizzeria owner who really changed my life. Kadir Chetobashalu of Brick Oven Pizza in New Haven, Connecticut, one of my great pizza mentors. And then after school, as I said, I went into political organizing, so didn't go into food professionally right after college, but I was always cooking for people and still baking bread and trying to learn sourdough more. And in Alaska, even though when I was running these campaigns, I was still very involved in local food system work and policy work regarding agriculture. I interned on the Hill in Washington, D.C. for a summer in college for Congresswoman Shelley Pingree, who represents Maine's 1st District, and she's very committed to growing the small scale agriculture system and organics and just not big conventional farms. So there's always this thread. And then I literally was, logistically, it was that I had, as a guest on one of these bicycle trips that as an adventure travel guide, I said I've also done that since college. I was leading bicycle trips in Sweden and Denmark, through this big company based in California called Backroads, amazing adventure travel company. And on one of my trips, I had a guest, this guy, Jeff Krupman, and I was like, Jeff, what do you do? And he said, I own a pizzeria in San Francisco. And I was like, I've always kind of thought about wanting to own a pizzeria or getting into the pizza world. And he was like, anytime you want to come out to California and learn the craft and work for me, just give me a call. And about a year and a half after that, or somewhere around then, I gave Jeff a call and moved out to San Francisco, learned how to make pizza, more seriously at Pizza Hacker, his spot in San Francisco, also now in Marin County in Mill Valley. And there was something always lurking. I always like to joke, maybe it was from the shtetl roots of my ancestors in Eastern Europe. For sure they were breaking bread, challah, the bread that us Jews eat on Friday nights for the Sabbath. There's definitely bread in our culture. Somehow it came out in pizza. And so it's really weird to say, but pizza making, professionally making pizza and starting this now mobile pizza operation and all the iterations I've been in the pizza industry, it feels like it's just tied together everything that I've done in my life to date. The politics and the community, the agriculture, especially now since so much of what I do is bringing my pizza making to farms in this area here in Western Massachusetts in the Hudson Valley. I just the last few days was planting a huge garden. So I still am very involved in growing things and love growing, things for my pizza making. My partner, Rafi, is an amazing botanist and has a huge agriculture background. She actually went to UC Davis, so in your guys' neck of the world. So she's an amazing grower of things. And so we love growing a huge garden for our pizza making. So it's just pizza making is all tied it together. And then I should say on the political side, now that I'm growing a little business, still very small, I think I can put my kind of political progressive values. I think given our conversation, it's probably clear that I'm more on the left side of politics, and I can put that to action in running a business that treats our everything, hopefully in a progressive way, our team, our land, our earth, and I can live out my values through pizza making. So sorry for the long ramble, but somehow it's all coming together through pizza making.
There are so many avenues to take there. I want to talk about your mentor for sure, but totally. Just to kind of cap like, to really hone in on the sustainable foods part.
Totally.
I finally get it. I just finished Omnivore's Dilemma, and that was kind of like just kind of the wormhole that I needed to enter to just transport me into like the understanding of just the big picture, right? And how it is kind of disgusting, the world that we live in, using crappy ingredients, using crappy systems. And our pizzas, the ones that we strive for, they're not crappy. And so why do we use crappy ingredients?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a great kind of text, a gateway text, if you will, into the world of food sustainability and sustainable agriculture. Michael Pollan kind of being on the forefront of that, many years ago now. And really the first one to really raise those alarm bells, or one of the first people to be like, what the heck's going on in our food system? And pizza, I always say this, and I'm not the only person who says this. Many of your other amazing Pizziolo and Pizziola guests have said this. Pizza is a great canvas it is almost the perfect canvas to kind of paint a picture of the agricultural landscape around you. Now, maybe if you had talked to me in high school or early college, I would have been like super, angsty about like, oh, you have to use everything local and have to know the name of the tomato you pick, just totally, I would have probably been pretty obnoxious. And I kind of can't stand that type of local food. But yeah, it still exists. I mean, certainly there are like, you can go get a $300, multi-course dinner at some like super local farm to table place. And that's fine. That there's a place for that kind of art. But I think ultimately what it's about is you're never going to, especially with pizza, you're just, unless you're committed to like putting in like exclusively whole grains and making a pizza with beets and like, winter squash and like random cheese that's produced in your area. You're just not, and then not using olive oil at all. You're not going to be an absolutist. Like, it's just like, let's not kid ourselves. No pizza is going to be 100% local. Yes. Good luck finding local olives in certainly in the Northeast or most of the world.
Right.
I use Corto olive oil from California. I use sometimes Stanislaus, sometimes Bianco di Napoli, but like I'm committed to California tomatoes. Besides using tomatoes when they're in season here. But the point is when you make a decision to, hey, I'm going to incorporate some local cheese from Highland Farm, the dairy in Lee, Mass down the road from me here, or I'm going to use some mozzarella from Maplebrook Farm up in Bennington, Vermont, or I'm going to incorporate even 5-6% of grains that are grown here in the Northeast from Farmer Ground up in New York, or Maine grains up in Maine. That's it's people say it's like voting with your dollar. And it's true. You are making conscious decisions to say, hey, I value these products. I value these producers in our community. And we're like, just so economically, you're supporting a vital part of the fabric of our local economy here. And, you're hopefully then by delivering that to your customers, you're spreading this gospel of creating resilient food communities that value smaller producers, that value having a connection with these producers, and that you're making that conscious decision. So I don't view it in this like absolutist terms. You have to have all like 100% of things on your pizza are going to be local. That's ridiculous. But, especially in this region, we're blessed with this unbelievable growing season from, that's really seasonal from essentially April, May through November. Like, how could I possibly serve a pizza in good conscience to my customer right now that I'm not putting on unbelievable local greens that are coming up, the cheeses that are just aplenty in Western Mass and Vermont and New York State, grains. We have a revitalizing grain economy in this region. Like, I cook more or less Neapolitan-ish pizzas, depending on the oven I'm using. And this trailer that I'm receiving shortly from Forza Forni is kind of in that 800-degree zone, so definitely in the Neapolitan-ish zone. But so it's definitely not traditional to put whole grains in your pizza or in your dough in that using those temperatures. But you can do it, and you can make an amazing pizza. And not to bash the I'll say this, and I'll end this spiel. Like, not to at all denigrate or bash people who are using Caputo or Italian flours out there. Like, you do you, and I love a lot of the pizzas that are made with those flours. But the Italian ethos is not to an Italian pizza maker in Naples would never import King Arthur flour or Central Milling or whatever. They'd be like, that's absurd. Like, why are you putting flour on a cargo ship and bringing it across the ocean and then sitting in a warehouse? And it's just so not the Italian ethos. So like as I'm going and kind of reformulating my dough for this new oven I'm getting, a lot of people are like, oh, you're using Caputo, giving me suggestions. I'm like, absolutely not. Like, why in the heck would I first off, a lot of Caputo grain, a lot of grain, like of the bags of flour that they're exporting from Italy, that's wheat grown in North America. It's not all Italian wheat. So essentially then we're taking wheat grown in North America, shipping it across to Italy, milled in Italy, putting it in a bag, and then shipping it back to America. That's insane. And flour should be a fresh product, or as fresh as possible. So
absolutely,
it's just like, I can't stand this, like, we have to use Italian products, or we have to use this. It's like, no, in Italy, they're using Italian products because it's such a regional food system. They are so grounded in their earth there and the land that they grow on. And that's what I try to preach with my pizzas. Like, I'm not going to use 100%, farmer ground flour from upstate New York, because it's just not going to work for the style of pizza I'm doing. So I'm going to use a mix of King Arthur, maybe some central milling, and then add in some whole grains when I can. But I'm certainly not going to just use Italian flour because I'm making an Italian product. This just makes no sense from a freshness and from a food system standpoint.
I love that. Thank you for ranting and rambling.
Yeah, sorry. I do all these rants.
Whatever you said. Not ramble, but ranting. Sorry.
And I just cut me off. My ADD pizza mind will just keep going.
I love the energy. You have to put it out there, because I think that I didn't get it. I didn't get it until recently, and I still don't get it. And I feel like the more this message gets hammered across, the better off we'll be. Just, on a big picture level and on a small pizza scale level, right? We're trying to improve what we got.
100%.
I want to talk to you about your mentor. Who is he? What did he do for you? Tell me everything you can about him.
No, Kadir epitomizes what I'm talking about when I say pizza is this, in my what's good dough answer, which is pizza as a vehicle for community, for changing people's lives for the better, for creating connections that wouldn't otherwise exist. So Kadir Çatabashoglu, my Turkish pronunciation has gotten a little better over the years. It's still pretty bad. So Turkish listeners, please forgive me for that pronunciation of Kadir's last name. So Kadir owns Brick Oven Pizza, or Pizza at the Brick Oven, known as both, at the corner of Howe and Elm in New Haven, Connecticut. Has owned it for probably since early 2000s at least now. So definitely potentially over 2 decades. Kadir is just like your quintessential kind of immigrant story, opens up a pizzeria in America. It's kind of, actually, I've always wanted to write an article or do a radio piece on this. I also have, I dabbled in public radio and radio reporting for a period of time in between my post-college years on this weird S-curve that's defined my nomadic post-college life. But in any case, Kadir is one of many Turkish pizzeria owners in the kind of Connecticut, in the tri-state area, but particularly Connecticut. There's just like a lot of Turkish folks who come to this country, work in pizza shops, and then start their own. So one, I think that's just like a great, that's such a great kind of, this case in point of how powerful pizza is just as a vehicle for economic development, for entrepreneurship. It's sure, I mean, you can nerd out on the craft of pizza. And I don't want to say pizza making is simple, but essentially putting together a pizza business is certainly as a newcomer to this country is one of, there's a formula you can follow, right? And so it's just so beautiful and inspiring to see this kind of patchwork of, immigrant run, newer immigrant run pizzerias all over the tri-state area, and particularly in Connecticut. In New Haven alone, there's probably like, I don't know, at least maybe even a dozen, Turkish-owned pizzerias. And they serve delicious pizza. They're all little different styles. So Kadir was in my neighborhood. I was living off campus my junior and senior year. Although I think the first weekend I was at Yale, I walked into Kadir's pizza shop and I just was like, oh my God, one, his pizza's amazing. I mean, to give you just a reference of how wild this and innovative and just resourceful Kadir is, he literally, I mean, he came to this country certainly not knowing much about pizza, let alone how to run a business here, and just did things to get it going. He drove a Penske truck across the country to a famous oven builder in Texas, loaded an oven kit into this Penske truck and a bunch of bricks, drove it back to Connecticut, New Haven, and put up this oven. He's just always, he's the most resourceful person I know. And his pizza shop is at this crossroads of the Yale community, the New Haven community. On any given day, you could have Yale students, you could have, New Haven locals. It's not, and that's again, the beautiful thing about pizza. It's not just a bougie crowd. It's not just this crowd. You have both working people and, foodies who have a lot of money to spend, and everyone in between sitting down and eating pizza right next to each other. It is the great equalizer, and Kadir's pizza shop epitomizes this. So essentially over the course of my time at Yale, I just became really friendly with him. And, again, I'm like a Jewish boy from New Jersey, and Kadir's a Turkish Muslim dude from the Black Sea region of Turkey. A little village called Gerson or Yaladure. I've learned so much about this Turkish world out there. And so by the end of my time in college, it was just the most beautiful thing. I'm going to Turkish breakfast at Kadir's house. I'm going to his mosque with him and visiting his imam and the local Turkish social club that he started, and meeting he is this like father figure in the immigrant community up there, where he's helped so many other people start their own pizza businesses, and is just always giving people support. And now, not only does he have his pizzeria, he has multiple pizzerias around New Haven. He owns rental apartment buildings. He has a convenience shop. The dude is an entrepreneurial phenom. And I wrote this article for a college paper, essentially, I think it was my senior year, where I basically said, like, no disrespect to my amazing professors or classmates, but in many ways, I learned more from just watching Kadir in his pizzeria, a brick oven, than I did in some of the most, tidy, Yale classes with like the best, professors in the world. Again, I learned a lot in these classes, but like seeing Kadir in action, how he treated his employees, how he treated the people around him, how he treated every person who came into his pizza shop. It didn't matter if they, were, a houseless person who was looking for a free meal and you'd give them a slice, to, some like, I don't know, uptight Yale student. He treated everyone with dignity, respect, and honor. And, I love him to death. He's an amazing human. And he's, I'll say, when I was doing a pop-up in like the woods in Berkshires, Massachusetts, in this like pop-up tent behind this restaurant, like deep down this winding rural road, probably 2.5, 3 hours from New Haven, 10 p.m. I'm like, I have one more pizza. It's the first pop-up I ever did with my rock box. I see Kadir and his entire family barrel out of this minivan. They've driven 3 hours just to come see me make pizza and try my pizza. And Kadir is used to stretching like, 20, 30 inch huge, like New Haven style pies, and then he was trying to like stretch my sourdough and put it in the rock box. And it was this hilarious amalgamation of cultures, and Kadir and his family are halal, and, I'm kosher, but I'm not like super strict. I don't eat meat, but, I felt so bad because I serve pork, I serve everything. And, he couldn't even eat the pizzas because like I was a not halal environment. So he's a mensch, as we say in Judaism. He's a mensch. He's like a real righteous person. And so anyway, I'll just say, I've been so lucky to have all these mentors, and certainly carrying along to Jeff, who taught me so much, and obviously taught me a lot more on the craft side, and is just an amazing human as well, and so committed to, using good product and fermenting good dough and creating a truly like delicious pizza. So I have all these references in the pizza world, and, I've been fortunate enough to learn from John Arena and Jonathan Goldsmith at a class I took down at Pizza University at Mara Forney's oven company in Maryland. They have a little pizza school, and they've become dear mentors. And Scott Wiener is a dear friend. He's a mentor of mine, and just all over the place. It's really been special how to kind of see how just loving this pizza world is. But I will say, like, if you're in New Haven, Connecticut, go to Brick Oven Pizza, tell Kadir Rafi Bildner sent you, and you will get the warmest Turkish/Italian hospitality you could ever imagine.
He sounds like a great dude. It sounds like you really learn a lot. You've really learned a lot from your mentors. I just want to really highlight how important it is, because not only are you making that connection where you can learn from their experiences, but you go into the trenches with them in learning these things by not just by like doing what I do by watching them from afar. You're actually in it, right?
Totally.
Pressing people's dough, talking to them, kind of getting that feedback. Mm-hmm. I feel like that is so important and
so important.
What differentiates great pizza makers.
Totally. And as so many of your guests have said, and I know you've had this conversation before, I can't agree with this enough. If you're going to open a pizzeria, even if you're going to do a pop-up, if you're serious about pizza, and this applies to, I think, any craft, woodworking, carpentry, you name it, farming, you're not like, it's crazy to just jump in and open up a pizzeria without getting your hands in the dough. Just as like when I started farming, like I hadn't worked on farms prior, that would have been a disaster. Just like the time I spent, certainly just watching Kadir's restaurant, but then when I jumped on the line of Pizza Hacker and Jeff's place, I mean, I spent 2 weeks just doing dishes. Like I did everything. I mean, I tried, I was on the salad station, I was doing dishes, and I was like, if I'm going to own a pizzeria, I better know how the dishwasher works. I better know how the intricacies of installing a grease trap. I mean, just like random stuff that you need to know when you're having a restaurant. I mean, it's, I have a small team, I'm lucky to say, behind me now, but I'm certainly at this point in my pizza career and growing my business where I'm still the one cranking out most of the pies. So, you got to be in the trenches, and you gotta, and if you don't love the craft and you don't love like late nights getting your hands dirty with dough, and like, I've had some crazy nights when I'm making dough until midnight and doing dishes until 3 and just like trying to hold these crazy pop-ups together. And obviously that's not for everyone, but you certainly like, you want to know the grind, because if you're looking to just like have a pizzeria just to like check out and serve pizza, is probably not the right thing for you, and your pizzas are probably not going to be great, and you're not going to be able to put the love and care that you need into it. For sure.
So let's talk about the farm that you are serving these beautiful pizzas at in this beautiful environment. What was your team like? What was your environment like? I want to know everything.
Totally. So what you're referring to is kind of the last, I'm about to embark on it again, but I was lucky enough to get this pop-up going. Essentially, since I kind of left Pizza Hacker and started going into my own thing, and like growing my own kind of Hilltown Hot Pies brand that is my business now, it's been a series of like either short-term pop-ups or, a few catering gigs here and there. Even when I was at in San Francisco, like working at other restaurants and working at Pizza Hacker, and still I would like, take my rock box and do little catering events and gigs. And then over time, like certainly at the beginning of the pandemic, it was like, okay, I'm ready to like jump in and get Hilltown Hot Pies off the ground, whether it's a brick and mortar, whether it's just pop-ups, whether I wasn't sure what shape it would take, but I came back east here to New England, which is like really, I feel like my home roots are at, and where I'm so connected to the farming scene and the food system up here. So this pop-up that I was able to get off the ground in June of last year through the fall was at this farm, Catchkey Farm in Kinderhook, New York. It's in Columbia County, so kind of northern Hudson Valley. And it's this farm that's actually in partnership with a catering company in New York City called Great Performances. They're a large catering company, and they source a lot of product from this farm. The farm is also home to the Sylvia Center, which is a nonprofit that does childhood nutrition education and culinary education for youth, both in kind of the rural Hudson Valley, and then also in New York, in the Bronx, where Great Performances, this catering company, is based. So it's a school farm that is a large organic production farm, but also has these other threads to it. They have this small pizza oven on the farm that probably had never been used to crank more than a few pies out at a time. And the owner of the catering company and who's this amazing woman, Liz Newmark, who's also definitely a mentor of mine in the food world. She's a legendary kind of hospitality leader in New York and beyond. Who's regularly been on advisory committees to the mayor of New York and other government officials about hospitality in the food industry, and just an incredible human being. And Liz invited me to kind of some connections to her, and I should say, I mean, most hilariously, classic Jewish mothers, if you will. My mom's amazing Jewish mother, and Liz, another amazing Jewish mother, were talking on the phone because they're kind of friendly. And this is back in like April. My mom was like, Rafi's trying to find a new place to do his pizza baking. Liz, do you know anything? And Liz was like, we have this pizza oven at my farm. Rafi should come here and check it out. And then boom, 1 month later, I had this pop-up running, and 2 months later, we were written up in the New York Times. So you always got to trust your Jewish mother. Yeah, you always got to trust your Jewish mother. No, it was this amazing thing that just kind of spiraled, not out of control, but spiraled more and more as the summer and fall went on. And, at first we were cranking 40, 50 pies at a time and just pushing the oven to its limit. And then by the end, it's like we're doing 170 pizzas in a night out of this tiny oven that I would have like 2 pies in there, plus like a third hanging off my peel. And it was absolute chaos, and no electricity or running water or anything at the location where the oven was at. So I'm from the prep kitchen that was elsewhere on the farm. I was driving everything over in coolers and making massive amounts of dough in a tiny mixer. And just the beautiful thing is, it's like all these weird pizzas. I mean, I brought my rock box to beaches in Marin County where I've hiked it in 3 miles. I've made pizzas at this tiny oven on a farm in Israel, where I was leading bicycle trips and brought my sourdough starter across the world to Israel to do that. And, this other restaurant here in the Berkshire. I mean, I've just had very off the beaten path pizza making experiences that's forced me to learn my dough, learn how to use crazy ovens, wind whipping in the oven, figure out how the fire's moving, all these like wild experiences. And, on this pop-up last summer and fall on the farm, I was doing dishes until 3 a.m. regularly on my own. It was essentially just me plus like a few folks who I hired to help me for a few months, but it was like very part-time for them. And, just the logistics of the farm, whereas like it was such that it pretty much had to be me most of the time, as to not like intrude too much on the farm's activities. So it was wild, and I was exhausted, and it took me like 2 months to recover from that. And then essentially this late fall, winter, and spring, I was like figuring out where does Hilltown Hot Pies go next, and I was super close to opening up a brick and mortar spot in Great Barrington, one of the kind of main towns here in Berkshire County, Mass, and didn't for a variety of reasons, which is a whole nother podcast of commercial lease issues and not worth our time here, but it was going to be a terrible lease, and I'm glad I didn't go forward with that.
As a learning opportunity, can you just describe to me what a messed up lease looks like? Like, why didn't it work?
Totally. In this particular case, and I should say, I was looking at, to figure out where Hilltown Hot Pies goes next, I was looking at so many different kind of properties and venues. I was talking with the land developer who's developing this real estate developer, I should say, is developing this shopping complex kind of in Vermont, and he was interested in bringing a pizzeria, and I was talking to him about opening a place in the Burlington area, and then other places around Berkshire County, and both to buy and to rent, and everything in between. And this potential spot in Great Barrington that I referred to was a pizzeria that had a wood-fired oven in it already. So it was almost turnkey. It was very complicated, and it's not worth going into intricacies because it was kind of attached to another restaurant. So I would have had to like separate it out as its own space, which was very doable, and it was kind of designed that way. But what I would say to folks listening here is just, if you are like, don't feel pressured into jumping into a situation that your gut tells you is not right. Even if it's like you were presented with a potentially golden opportunity, like start a pizzeria. Essentially, I could have probably started the place for a few $1,000s, honestly, outside of like, the rent and then legal and certification fees and product. It was almost 100% turnkey. There was a mixer, there was an oven, there was everything I needed. I could have jumped right in. But I was getting really pushed around by this landlord who was just, I can't even describe, there were so many little things, but it just didn't feel right. Like he was not negotiating in good faith. I had this amazing attorney working with me to help me draft a letter of intent, which is very classic in a commercial real estate transaction, a lease. And he just kept pushing back on weird things and making us and making me feel like he really didn't want to do this, or I was going to pay a very fair price for this. Frankly, not prime real estate. Like it's not on the main street. It's like just off of the main street. So. And I was going to pay a great price for it, but he kept trying to kind of jack me around this, and just all these little things added up to be like, I don't need it. I have enough other kind of avenues to pursue my entrepreneurship that I'm not going to jump into this and be stuck in a lease that's not right for me, and in a place that's not right for me. And it was a great wake up call, because the whole thing, when I got to this point in like February, March, March, I was like, you know what? I don't want to be, even though it's the more traditional path for me to open up a brick and mortar at this point. I have enough of a following in this region. I'm so fortunate that I've had press about my pizza making. People, thankfully love my pizzas, even though I still feel like they have a very long way to go. So I could have opened up a brick and mortar. I was like, it made so much sense, but I was like, I don't want to be inside in this traditional restaurant making pizzas. That's not who I am. I want to be out there on farms in the community. I would like to not schlep as many coolers and like break my back, like driving coolers across the farm, but and that's what led me to like, let's get a mobile thing off the ground, because a real mobile operation with a serious trailer and equipment and formal entity to make this happen. But it was really just it was a great lesson in there are, and I'm lucky to, in my family and my friends, like be around a lot of entrepreneurs, and people have started companies and gone to business school and who are much more knowledgeable about entrepreneurship than me. But I've seen so many folks, certainly in the restaurant industry, get stuck in either buildings they shouldn't be in, businesses that are too big, starting out way too big, and they're in over their heads, or bad leases or properties that they think are going to work out and they don't. And it's like, it's a serious commitment to start a brick and mortar restaurant. So to take the time. Don't get stuck into something you don't need to be in. And there's always another option somewhere. It might take a little while to get there, but there's always another option. And for me, it was like, getting a mobile thing off the ground and really taking my pizzas to the people.
You're so right, because you don't want to get stuck in that bad position. Your gut is trying to tell you, don't do this. And not only that, but your landlord is a business partner, whether you like it or not. And if they're not willing to, start off the relationship great, what makes you think they're going to want to continue to negotiate with you in good faith later down the line? You can totally shoot yourself in the foot if you start that relationship bad. So thank you for sharing that. That was so valuable.
Totally. Yeah, for sure.
One door closes and another one opens. Mobile, just it seems like it fits you. You get to travel.
Totally.
It's part of who you are.
Yeah,
this is perfect. Tell me
you're
more
so
about
right.
it.
You are spot on. If only I had the sage counsel of iDrip earlier on in this year when I was deep in my millennial angst of what do I do with my life? I should say things got this is a ridiculous comment, but a funny anecdote. I would say things got so dark at one point where I was like, where the hell do I bring this business to next? Or how do I grow Hilltown Hot Pies? What direction do I go into? Where I was like, you know what? F it. I'm just gonna not give up. It's just leave pizza for now. Maybe I'll come back and start a pizzeria later. I should just apply to law school and go back into politics. And I come from, my parents were attorneys by trade before they kind of went back into the food business. My sister's an attorney for the ACLU. And so I'm surrounded by great, and many of my friends are attorneys. And so surrounded by many lawyers who mostly do great things and work for great organizations. So no disrespect to lawyers, but I was like, knowing my ADD pizza making mind, going to law school is not the right choice. Like, Rafi, let's bring it back to pizza here. That's where you should be going. So anyway, if
I just may, Rafi, real quickly.
Yeah.
You're not the only one who goes through that.
Totally.
I have that every day. Ask my producer, Sevi, when we're talking on the phone for a whole hour. I'm just like, what the hell? But also one thing that I used to combat that, aside from, the support from peers, is just, I've been in this position before. And whenever I see a downside, or I anticipate negativity, or I get scared of the thing that I'm trying to pursue, I just tell myself, think opposite and run towards that fear.
Totally. Yeah. And that's so well said, because And that's why I first got into pizza making, because or got into it more professionally and really jumped into it. It's because pizza making is this happy thing. I mean, you were putting out your craft, putting out this product that just generally makes people happy. And it's funny that Pizza Hacker, I remember so many days where, it's just a great pizzeria, amazing craft product in a city like San Francisco. There's a lot of folks, coming in on a weekday who are had an average day at a corporate office somewhere in San Francisco, not to bash the tech world, but a lot of kind of techie, folks our age, honestly, coming in after a hard day at whatever, you name your tech company, Facebook, and coming in, whatever, they're kind of down or they're stressed out about work. And then they come in and they eat. Literally, I would see it. I'd bring some nights when I was serving, or I'd behind the line and would run a pie out and bring this unbelievable top shelf marg, as he calls it, with dry farmed early girl sauce that that's his top shelf marg, where literally sourced from this one particular farm, these unbelievable early girl tomatoes, house stretched mozz, unbelievable sourdough crust, and watch these people just light up. And you're like, oh my God, this makes people so happy. And in this pop-up I did last summer and fall in the heart of the pandemic. I mean, the numbers were a little better here. And we were outside, so it felt safer. And there was a little bit more of an optimistic vibe then compared to the fall and winter for sure. But it was the first place that most folks, almost the majority of our customers, had ever been to out of their house since the pandemic started. And the first meal they were eating out because it was outside and so safe. And it just brought so much joy to people. It just lit people up. And people, the whole winter and in spring and now are texting me and Instagramming me, Rafi, are you coming back to the farm? Are you doing this again? This was the highlight of our year. Eating pizza on a beautiful farm with product that they literally is grown, vegetables are grown 75 yards from where they're sitting, in this just absolute sanctuary of happiness. It's just unbelievable. So anyway, going to your question of of where this goes next. As you said, it makes so much sense to be able to continue to offer those experiences like I did at Ketchke Farm and beyond, and grow a mobile pizza business in this way that is just spreading joy through good pizza and allowing me to like partner with different farms and source different products, show up like to a vegetable farm in this area or a winery, whatever it is, or a dairy farm, and be able to highlight their product through my pizzas. It's just, I can't think of anything better. And I'm always playing with my fermentations and my recipes, and just like every week of just throwing together new combinations that speak to the food system around us. And that's, at the end of the day, being in one physical place, while it has its place in time, and I probably at some point would love to start my dream in the pizza world. Like the epitome of my pizza business goals would be to start my own literal pizza farm, which is a thing. There are pizza, it's a term that it started in the Midwest, in Minnesota and Wisconsin and Iowa and whatnot, where a lot of farmers just put in pizza ovens on their farm and then started these pizza nights. And that's essentially what we were doing at Ketchke Farm. It's not as much of a thing in the Northeast, but there are more and more farms that are serving pizza now. And I would love to ultimately have a physical destination that is a production farm where we have like a barn and a pizza oven, and we serve pizzas and do events, and we have live music, and maybe there's a brewery. I mean, I would love to create this whole just glorious rural pizza destination, but that will happen. But for now, I get a Forza Forni gorgeous pizza trailer with a large Pavesi oven from the good folks at Forza Forni down in Westchester, a few hours south of us. And in a few weeks, fingers crossed, it will be ready, and I'll pick it up, and I will go back to this farm I was at in the summer and fall. I will go to breweries in the area. I will go to literally just like some trailheads around here where people are coming back from their mountain bike rides on a random weeknight. I'm going to do private events. I'm going to do kind of everything in between, but it's going to allow me to really take this business to the next level, where it's this amazing unit with this gorgeous oven that I can crank 6, 7, potentially even 8 pies out at a time. I have refrigeration on it. It's a real serious like unit that essentially allows me to grow this mobile pizza business in a way that would grow a brick and mortar business and take on more employees, put out more pizzas, continue to hone my craft, and bring, as I say, kind of half jokingly, although it's become somewhat serious for Hilltown Hot Pies, wild yeasted pizzas in wild places. Just it all comes together in that way.
Love it. Now you get to bring this love and joy and the wild yeasted pizzas to different yeasted places. It's not just one, right? It's so
totally
cool.
And then even more so, like because here, obviously, or, inherently it means it's a bit of a seasonal business here. It's tough to, this trailer logistically has an oven that, is outside. The oven it's not like an enclosed food truck. There is a bit of an enclosed section with a prep table and refrigeration, but, we need to be outside, cranking these pies out. And I love that, because it's like, that's for me is part of it is, much to the chagrin of Ruthie, my partner who helps me with pizza making sometimes and is, more and more a key player in Hilltown Hot Pies, and my amazing team behind me. Much to their chagrin, I do get very distracted when our guests come up and start talking to me, and all I want to do is talk about my pizzas and start going on these spiels about pizza making. But that's part of it. It's part of the show. And if people wait an extra 30 minutes because we're chatting about the pie, they love that. And so, because it's mobile though, the beautiful thing is, so like I finish up the season here in October, November, and, it gets too cold to kind of, with maybe a few exceptions where we could do some winter pop-ups. There's a chance that I'll take this pizza wagon on the road and bring it out west for the winter. I still have like communities out west that I love and care about. And we're throwing around the ideas of taking the Hilltown Hot Pies trailer to like Joshua Tree, or to like, the Southern California deserts, or to some ski towns, and these places that are like boom in the winter. And that's just the beautiful thing. I mean, there are a lot of logistics and crazy bureaucracies, and it's not the easy route at all. It would be much easier to just have one place and make pizzas there, and that's it. But again, as you said, it's not who I am, and I have to do things in a little bit of an adventurous way, and that's what this pizza trailer allows.
Knowing you will figure it out. I mean, you are literally living one of my dreams. It's to go travel the world and just do a pop-up here or
Totally.
there. I hope people listening do realize it is hard, because different counties, different cities,
super hard.
All these municipalities have different permitting rules and laws.
Totally.
But hey, the reward is going to be worth it if you can make it work, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Don't want to sugarcoat it. It is hard. It is a grind. As I said, I mean, I'm like finding a commissary kitchen to operate it out of in this quite rural area is really tough. I mean, I've visited every church and synagogue and community center that has a commercial kitchen and to try to find a space. And I literally just secured our space that we're going to use this season, for this inaugural, pizza trailer season. And we're going to be sharing a kitchen space with a lot of other wonderful people, but it's a shared space. There's a lot of logistics with that. I'm going to be driving all over the place, probably doing dishes. It doesn't even have a commercial dishwasher, like an automatic dishwasher. So we're going to be doing a lot of dishes by hand late into the night. It is a grind. And I'm 28 and feel blessed to have a healthy, body that I can kind of do this hard physical. It is a hard physical labor. Like you are just cranking pies in weird places under the heat, in front of a hot oven, with a mask, although that's obviously changing. And it's really, it's a grind. And, again, just the restaurant industry in general. I'm lucky enough between Kadir and college. I worked at a fine dining restaurant on the line a little bit when I was in New Haven, Jeff out in California, and all the restaurateurs I've been lucky to see in my own family in the food business. The food business, whether it's on the distribution or retail or restaurant, it's all a grind. It's hard work. It's not easy. There are many other easier ways to make a living. But, if you're committed to the craft, if you love it and it's ultimately what allows you to express who you are, then you have to go for it. And as I sit here and I'm like just imagining all the like late night dishes and dough making and just the aches and pains I'll have, I still want to go for it because I love it and it's the expression of who I am. So, but it's a grind. It's a grind.
I feel that. Oh, I feel that so much. So what you're telling me is that, 2 summers from now or post summer season, when you're traveling and you're all done, we're going to have to schedule another podcast so you can tell me all of the different ups and downs of traveling across with your new mobile truck. Totally.
As I'm like phoning like tiny rural villages here in their local health departments. And I'm like, hey, I have this mobile pizza trailer. And they're like, what is that? What's a food truck? I'm like, well, all right. Well, so yeah, there's a lot of intricacies. And as my, sourdough, dough with pushing the limits on whole grain in there is just falling into soupy mess in the dough trays on a hot summer day, I will be phoning you, Idrif, and be like, don't do this.
or do it, or do it. But
definitely do it.
I hope it's that, but it could very well be don't do it. But hey, we'll see.
Totally. It's a grand pizza adventure. And the thing is like, just folks listening who are starting their own thing or their own pop-ups or who are just getting into the game or starting their own restaurant, brick and mortar pizzeria. A great learning experience for me throughout this whole weird pizza journey that I've had at physical restaurant spaces, doing my own thing out of a rock box in crazy locations around the country and the world. This pop-up I did at the farm, all these different things. Obviously, in that, I have put out so many different types of pizza. Like sometimes it's more charred, sometimes it's more crispy, sometimes the dough is really sour because it's extremely fermented and you have all that lactobacillus in there. Sometimes it's really light and fluffy. And I'm always, that's on purpose and it's not. Sometimes I'm trying new flours and experimenting, and sometimes it's like the wind is whipping the oven. And like I had a customer in August, a few weeks into this pop-up last summer, right to me and was like, hey, the pizza was way more charred this time. I really liked it, but and I was like, well, the wind was gusting like 60 miles an hour and there was like a tornado coming over the Catskill Mountains, towards this farm. And our oven was just licking every pie with flames no matter what we did. But here's the thing, like the vast majority of customers in all these iterations of pizzas I put out there have loved it. And even if one week they got a pie that was crispier and the next week it was softer, or one week it was like really Neapolitan style and the next week is more like neo-Neapolitan style, to get all pizza nerdy, they love it. And in America, especially, I feel like we in our food world here have become so used to, whether through fast food or just like really like, just chain restaurants or I think are conditioned to like expect products a certain way and it's all the same and we want regularity. I mean, that's like, how bread became like Wonder Bread. They were looking for loaves of bread that were exactly the same. And so that was the course of food history in this country. And so now obviously so many craftspeople breaking out of that and putting out bread that's darker and putting out pizza that's more charred and more fermented and is, if you go to a Neapolitan place in if you go to Gino Sorbio's place in Naples or Enzo Cocha's place or any of the great Neapolitan pizza makers, all the pizzas look totally different. And one pizza is oval, one pizza is circular, one might be a triangle. That's beautiful. Like, pizzas are unique. Pizzas should be different from each other. And I just can't say enough that, like, yeah, strive for perfection, strive to be really good at your craft, but like, you don't have to strive to make everything the same. And I know that when we get this trailer up and running in the next few weeks, like, one night is going to be totally different from the next night just because of those environmental factors. And that's okay. People will love it. Obviously, you want to put out a good product, but like, it's a craft. It's one cabinet isn't going to be the same as another cabinet. One house isn't going to be the same as another. All these different crafts. Like, let's treat pizza as a craft, and it's not a factory machine product that we're putting out where everything should be the same. Everything should be unique, should have character, and should be, as John Arena says, like one of my just absolute mentors and legends in the pizza world, who I love so dearly. As he says, pizza, you have a dough ball. It's an extension of what's in your heart at that given moment, and that might change day to day. So that's great.
So true. You're speaking truth. Pizza is perfectly imperfect. I don't know who I heard that from, but it is so true. It doesn't matter.
Love that.
It doesn't matter the shape, size, or whatever. It is beautiful the way it is. Rafi, this is something I'm trying to incorporate into the newer shows. It's going to be rapid fire, just real quick, one-liners if you have. What flour are you using?
Right now I'm using mix of King Arthur, Central Milling, and different local flours from the Northeast, Main Grains, Farmer Ground, etc.
Awesome. Tomatoes.
Also a mixture of Stanislaus, Alta Cucina, and Bianco di Napoli, mostly crushed. So love them both. Very
cool. Cheese.
For my kind of national mozzarella that is not usually the feature of my pies, that's just kind of my filler mozzarella, if you will, just to create that juiciness between the other cheeses, is Grande. And then I love their Fior di Latte. I think it's the best nationally available mozzarella for sure. And then obviously a lot of local cheeses from the incredible dairy producers all over this New England region.
Okay, and if you have one topping to finish all of your pizzas off, what would it be?
There is just nothing like a Sun Gold or Super Sweet 100 or purple cherry tomato. Any local tomato, whether out in California or out here east, they're about to pop soon in the next month. Even that with nothing on it, just olive oil is fine. But that with a little mozzarella, a little garlic, finished off with some local arugula and greens. I mean, come on. So just let those local tomatoes sing.
Oh, you made my mouth water. That sounds so good.
I'll show you some pictures. I call it our sun rocket. I have a few different names for this pizza, but the sun rocket is the one I put out there, which is a mixture of sun golds, local sun golds when they come in, local arugula and greens, garlic right from the farm here, and then mozzarella, and that's it. That's all it needs.
I don't want to leave without talking about your pizza specifically.
Yeah.
What are you making? Describe your pizza to me. Like if you had an elevator pitch, what are you cranking out?
Yeah, totally. It's, again, I think there's two components of it. It's my pizzas it's a focus on the fermentation and then the dough and trying new grains and flour combinations and really pushing that sourdough fermentation. Again, not because, there's so many great commercial yeasted pizzas out there. Like some of the best pizzas in the world are made with commercial yeast. So again, I don't want to be obnoxious or go crazy on the sourdough. I just like it because the flavor's amazing. It's fun. It gives me kind of I've wrapped my brain around sourdough, so it's something I've been able to kind of nerd out on. So I would say a well-fermented, slightly sour, soft but crispy crust. So really in that kind of Neapolitan zone. I love cooking pizzas anywhere from like 700 to 850. Neapolitan's amazing. I've cooked many Neapolitan pizzas, but I think especially in the States where people do like a crispier pizza, it holds up better in a box. There's so many reasons to bring in a little crispness. You can then cook for like a minute and a half or even 2 minutes as opposed to 60 seconds. Then you can unlock so many doors. You can throw, I do a lot of, especially again here being so connected to our farms, I'm putting a lot of eggs on pizza, duck eggs and beautiful chicken eggs. And like one of my classic pies that I love doing is a shakshuka pizza, bringing in my time out in in the Middle East, in Israel and Palestine, where shakshuka is such a unbelievable dish, that tomato stew with eggs and turmeric and cumin and za'atar, wild oregano. And anyway, when you're cooking at 800 or 750, you can push the cooking time a little longer, get a little crispier, and it gives your toppings a little more time to marinate in the oven. So then on this, going outside of the dough, on the topping part, it's like any given week, I'm just doing totally different things and using what's available, and things that I've preserved and dried. Like right now I'm preserving a lot of ramps, these wild leeks that come up in the forest all over the East Coast. People got to go crazy for ramps. I'm so lucky here in the town we're in. There are miles and miles of ramps in the forest here that I could go out on any given day and just forage for like crazy. I'm drying those now. I'm blending those with olive oil and putting them in the freezer. So in a few weeks, in a month, I can make pizzas with these ramps. I'm always preserving tons of tomatoes from the summer to use them. So I'm like, preservation of the local bounty is so important to me. So any given day, it's like totally different. I'm sure when I get the trailer in a few weeks, we'll be doing a lot of stuff with all the greens coming up and beets that are coming up. And I do like a beet pesto pie. So it's just fun. I mean, that's why I love being so connected to the food system and the farm system. It's just any pizza is an expression of what's going on in the soil.
Oh, it sounds like you are using everything around you. You're preserving so that you can use some stuff for later. It sounds like a delicious pie, man. Great job.
Totally. And we'll see. I mean, this oven I've never cooked long term. I've used a Pavesi, which is the oven that's going to be on this trailer, once in a while in the past at other restaurants, and was able to go down to the Forza Forni test kitchen and use their Pavesi to get a feel for it. It's going to be an experiment for me. I mean, I'm getting an oven that I've never really worked on. And, my sense is that it's wood fired. There are propane version or gas versions if you have a brick and mortar, but on the trailer, it's 100% wood fired. And again, I mean, I'm in this area that's just teeming with hardwood forests. Like, forest products are one of the main economic drivers in New England. Again, being connected to my landscape in the local economy here, I want to buy wood from some of our local lumber operations. And folks in the area who put out this unbelievable kiln dried hardwood that's a mixture of maple and beech and ash, and that will go in the oven. And I'm assuming my senses with this Pavesi, I will do the follow-up podcast of all the lessons I've learned from this oven, but I think it's the perfect oven for what I'm looking for in that kind of like 750, 800 neo-Neapolitan zone, where it doesn't have to be ripping hot. It gives us time on the line, especially with like bringing some new pizza makers on board to be a little forgiving. And, you forget to turn a pizza in 10 seconds on a Contomari, a Stefano Ferrera, a Neapolitan oven, that pie's going to scorch and it's going in the compost bin, not the trash bin. It's
like 5 seconds on my Ooni.
Yeah, exactly. Or on the rock box, exactly. But the Pavesi, I love that style because it's a little more forgiving. You can get a little more crispness, and I'm excited to use it.
Very cool. I just as a quick nod, great job, going to the test kitchen and kind of getting a feel for it, because you hear so many bad stories where they just buy the oven because it was marketed to them, or everyone's using a Pizza Master, so I'm gonna get that.
Totally.
Go try it out first.
Go try it out. And the pizza community is so loving, so giving. I'm just reading an article, or seeing a video on, that Audrey Kelly of Audrey Jane's Pizza Garage in Boulder, who I love Audrey. Never met her, but I'm just a huge admirer of her pizzas and the craft she puts out. And she was sharing all these tips and tricks for her sourdough fermentation and grandmas. It's just like every single day you could tap into new pizza knowledge and pizza makers out there. So if you're looking to get an oven, looking to whatever, like, go to a pizzeria that's using that oven. Message someone on Instagram and ask them, hey, how do you like this oven? Because it's just like the pizza community is giving, and take advantage of that.
I have 2 questions that I normally love to end the show with. What is one mistake people can avoid in the pizza business?
As a relatively like young pizza entrepreneur, or young in my pizza career, I would say probably like just getting into it for the wrong reasons. Not that, that makes it sound harsher than it is, but like, obviously, like, as I've said throughout this whole conversation, pizza making is a craft, should be looked at as a craft. And the people I've learned from I've been so lucky because they've treated it as a real craft, as just as any other. Just as any other thing, any other kind of profession in our society, whether that's law or being in the financial world, or, starting a tech company, or, being an architect. I mean, pizza making should be looked at as a craft in the highest degree. And so if you're just getting into it because you want to sell a lot of pizzas, or you think it's a good business, or you just want to grow a business, grow. I mean, that there's a place for that. And obviously a business should be financially sustainable. Otherwise it's not a business, and you're doing a disservice to yourself and your employees and your customers if you don't have a financially sustainable business. But I just think, I've seen folks you see so many, pizza concepts or, pizza restaurants open up that are clearly not looking at pizza as the real craft, that they're just trying to crank out a lot of pies and grow a business very quickly. And that's unfortunate because, it doesn't do a service to what the unbelievable product and complex product that pizza is. I mean, we can go, we haven't even really talked about in this interview because there's just so much other stuff to talk about. And it speaks to how, this one simple food, pizza, has so many threads coming out of it. And, we could spend 2 hours, we could spend days and weeks nerding out about, tomato growing and tomato as a product. And the same goes for the dough, for the cheese, for every other ingredient. So, I just really, I get into it. If you want to treat the craft with love and respect and care and grow yourself as a pizza maker, as a pizzaiolo, and I hope we continue. And it's amazing watching this pizza renaissance in this country now and around the world. Folks who are treating it with such respect and care and love, because it deserves to be. It's a powerful, my friends who are not in the pizza world and family make fun of me for how much I'm a pizza evangelist. The pizza world, or the pizza as a food is just a powerful product that really can change people's lives. And it deserves to be treated with a lot of respect.
Pizza evangelist. I love that. You are promoting the good word of pizza. If some company was collecting royalties on the word pizza, they would be wealthy from all the royalties that I have to pay for them, for how much they talk about the passion and the love and the power of pizza. I just have a follow-up question to that. Is why do you think we do what we do? Being a pizza evangelist, because I feel like people have not called me that, but I think that is a great way to coin it. What is it about? Why are we doing what we do here?
I think it's just, there's this thing about pizza and I've heard again, some of the greats speak about it. For sure. So I'm definitely not the only one and not the first by any means at all. But, I have been in the most out there cities for me as an American, as in rural Bhutan. I did a study abroad program in college on kind of environmental stuff and ecology and rural development, and amazing program in Bhutan. Bhutan is a very rural country, and this was way out there in Bhutan. And Bhutanese food is amazing. I eat a lot of Bhutanese food. The one restaurant in this tiny, essentially village, there's got to be less than maybe 2,000 people in this town. This was the big town of the area. There was a pizza place. It was not in my New York standards great pizza, but what are the odds? There's so little kind of non-Bhutanese food in the country Bhutan. It's a pretty isolated country. And there's this pizza place, and it was just I had such a fun time. I wasn't even in the pizza world professionally then, but I just loved talking to the owner, and I went there quite a few times for my non-Bhutanese food night a week. And it's just pizza is global. It's everywhere. And we could all, me and these Bhutanese folks outside of Bumthang, Bhutan, the town that this was in, are connecting over pizza, this food that was created in Italy and spread all over the world and is related to by all, is a great equalizer because it generally can be produced, even me producing this more hippy-dippy, obnoxious pizza product with whole grains and fermentation and local cheese and all yada yada. It's still, I'm offering at a pretty reasonable price, very reasonable price point. that most folks can relate to and go out and get my pizza. And it just is this equalizer. And so I think there's just so much power in that. And again, there's hundreds and hundreds of threads. We could nerd out about the fermentation. We could nerd out about the dough, about the cheese, about the sauce, about pizza as a business, about entrepreneurship, about pizza as a lesson in developing mentorships and community. It's just like every single thing about it. We could go in so many different threads. So not to say there are so many other foods that are like that too, but pizza's got to be one of the main ones in the world that is just so relatable to so many people in the world, all over the world. And, gosh, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. As I said, in my weird life of politics and bike guiding and outdoor stuff and farming and yada, yada, pizza is this thread. I mean, like, I can't think of very many other things that connect all the things in my life other than pizza. So if Rafi Bildner is a case study, pizza is a great equalizer, the great connector.
I am so lucky to be connected to you through pizza.
Seriously.
Thank you so much for that.
Me too, IJ.
And what do you want to leave the audience with today?
Gosh, what a beautiful conversation this has been. I would just say, I would just say, like, go deeper with your pizza, as in think about, obviously, as we've talked about a lot, the sourcing of the ingredients, how it can paint a picture, how your pizzas can paint a picture of the agricultural landscape around you, how they can better connect you with your environment around you. But really think through all of the different components that are in that pizza, in terms of it connecting you to other people around you, it creating community, it being a catalyst for entrepreneurship and small business. The pizza that you're making on any given night, you could think about that in so many different threads and really extrapolate out from that. So go deeper, learn about, learn more about the fermentation, about the dough side of things, about where the wheat's growing or where the flour you're sourcing is from. Learn about the pizzeria owners in your area. Ask questions. As I talked about my experience with Kadir in New Haven, like, I just started asking him questions and got to know him. And next thing you know, a few years later, I'm behind the line on a busy Saturday night and my classmates are like, "Do you work here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Kadir's I just help Kadir out when he gets slammed." And so it just, go deeper in your pizzerias, in your pizza, in the ingredients, and in how, pizza, is around in your community and who makes pizza in your community. And it's going to unlock and unleash so many doors for you. And, who knows, maybe next thing you know, you'll be buying a strange, giant pizza cargo trailer with an oven in it and trailing that all over New England and out west and everything beyond. And I would love to see another Hilltown Hot Pies out there. It would be a great honor. So enjoy it, spread the love through pizza and those connections and go deeper on your pizza making.
Rafi, thank you so much for taking the time to record with me. I cannot thank you enough for teaching me and the listeners and sharing your journey with us. And I can't wait to see Hilltown Hot Pies, the mobile pizza oven in California. You got it, dude. Bring it here. To you, the listener. Yo, if you're not hyped, if you're not pumped, come on. Let me know so I can make sure to apply that to the next show. But if you are hyped and you're ready to get to pizza making and leveling up your pizza game, make sure to follow Rafi and see his journey as he progresses. His Instagram is linked in the show notes. Give him a follow. And while you're on IG, also hit me up at What's Good Dough. You can DM me there to talk. You can give me feedback. Speaking of feedback, if you're an Apple listener, leave that 5-star rating. If you're feeling the podcast, I would be extremely grateful if you left a 5-star review. And if you don't listen to Apple Podcast, check it out. I have a anonymous survey similar to Apple Podcast in the show notes. So you can let me know your thoughts there. Check out the show notes also for a link to the transcript. It is free. Please utilize it so you can search for all the goodies. And if you know someone who is deaf and hard in hearing, please pass this transcript along because we want to be a more inclusive podcast. Also, make sure to stick to the very end so you can hear me and Rafi talk. But other than that, till next time, peace! Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Rafi. That was a great great conversation with you. I'm excited to, continue following your journey and seeing where you take this thing.
Thank you so much. I will definitely do a part 2 follow-up of lessons from the pizza maker, lessons from the road. We'll where we recap Hilltown Hot Pies first season. And hey, if I take the trailer out west and get down to California, maybe you'll take a road trip south or I'll be back in the Bay. We'll get you some Hilltown Hot Pies soon for sure.
Heck yeah, I will be the first person to put my name down for the RSVP list.
Awesome.
Let's go. I'm having me a Hilltown Hot Pie.
Yeah, man. Awesome.
Cool. Thank you so much. I have to use the restroom.
Please.
Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Ajay. Such a pleasure. Really a delight. And love what you're doing. You've been such an inspiration in all the conversations you've had. You're doing a great service to the community. So thank you.
Oh, thanks, Rafi. I love that you're a part of this. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you later, okay?
Talk to you soon, Ajay.
I'm going to hang up.
Yep.
Make just when I hit the hang up button, it's going to say like a minute before it uploads, and then you can close the browser.
Sounds good. Will do.
Thanks, brother. Have a good
Be
rest
well,
of your day.
Ajay. All right. Talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.